Inside Chanel's most secret room, why was Jungkook allowed into the heart of a fragrance empire? And is a new perfume already being born? What does it really mean when a global pop icon is quietly escorted into one of the most guarded creative spaces in luxury history? Why would a house as famously private as Chanel open the doors of its perfume laboratory, often described as its heart and olfactory brain, to Jungkook of BTS? And is this visit truly just a ceremonial walkthrough for a new ambassador, or is the world witnessing the earliest, almost invisible signs of something far bigger taking shape? Those questions have been echoing across fashion circles, fragrance insiders, and fan communities since images and video clips began circulating from Paris in late January 2026. Jungkook, now 28, was not photographed on a red carpet or seated in a front-row fashion show seat. Instead, he was seen standing among raw materials, blotter strips, and the quiet intensity of a laboratory where Chanel's most iconic scents are conceived. For a brand that has spent more than a century protecting its creative processes with near-mythical secrecy, this moment landed like a whispered shockwave. This is not just another celebrity brand partnership story. This is about access, symbolism, and the subtle language of power in the luxury industry. And above all, it is about a question that refuses to go away. Would Chanel allow Jungkook this close if he were merely a face, and not a mind, a sensibility, a potential collaborator? From the outskirts of Paris, roughly an hour from the city center, near the calm stretch of green close to the Bois de Boulogne, stands a place rarely mentioned publicly. It is not a boutique, not a museum, not a showroom. It is the laboratory where Chanel fragrances are imagined, tested, refined, and protected. According to reports documented by Yellowly Japan and referenced by K-Star Trend, this is where Jungkook was invited, an invitation extended by none other than Olivier Paulge, Chanel's in-house perfumer and the man responsible for shaping the present and future of the brand's olfactory identity. Paulge is not a figure who appears casually in promotional content. As the successor to his father Jacques Paulge, he represents continuity, discipline, and a deeply internal creative lineage. When he speaks about fragrance, he does so in the language of philosophy and craftsmanship, not trends. And when he welcomes someone into this space, it is rarely accidental. The visit itself was presented with an air of calm curiosity rather than spectacle. Jungkook arrived quietly, dressed with understated elegance, stepping into an environment where time feels suspended. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower could be seen faintly, a reminder of Paris beyond the laboratory walls. Inside, however, the focus was not on the city, but on scent, on jasmine and rose grown in the fields of Grasse, on raw materials cultivated under Chanel's direct supervision, on the meticulous journey from flower to formula. Olivier Paulge explained a process that Chanel guards fiercely, the brand's involvement from the very beginning of fragrance creation. Flowers are grown on family-owned land, harvested with precision, processed locally, and then brought into the laboratory for transformation. This vertical control is not simply about quality. It is about authorship. Chanel does not merely assemble perfumes, it authors them from soil to skin. And in that space, Jungkook was not standing passively. He was seen smelling blotter strips, asking questions, listening intently. He was reportedly engaged in discussions not only about ingredients, but about philosophy. Paulge himself drew a striking comparison, describing Chanel perfumes as complex, abstract creations that do not rely on a single dominant note, but instead form an entirely new style. In the same breath, he likened that complexity to Jungkook as an artist, someone not defined by one trait, but by the balance of many. This comparison matters more than it seems. In the language of Chanel, abstraction is power. To say that a perfume is not about one flower, one moment, or one trend is to say that it exists beyond time. And to place Jungkook within that same conceptual frame is to elevate him beyond the typical ambassador role. Jungkook's own words during the visit added another layer of intrigue. Reflecting on identity and growth, he shared a philosophical statement that resonated deeply with fans and observers alike. He said that if he were to meet his past self, he would say nothing, because every experience, every struggle, every moment shaped who he is today. It was a quiet comment, But in the context of Chanel's emphasis on timeless modernity, it felt almost scripted by fate. Chanel's history has always been built on paradox. Gabrielle Coco, Chanel rejected fleeting trends while defining new ones. She embraced modernity without chasing it. The brand's most famous fragrance, No. 5, was revolutionary precisely because it did not smell like a single flower, but like an idea. To this day, Chanel insists that perfume is not decoration, but identity. So why Jungkook and why now? As BTS continues its global evolution, each member's individual trajectory has become a subject of intense analysis. Jungkook's transition into the world of luxury fashion and beauty has been deliberate and measured. Unlike explosive announcements or dramatic unveilings, his partnership with Chanel fragrance and beauty unfolded with quiet confidence. This laboratory visit, however, shifted the narrative entirely. I am the luxury industry. Access is language. Being photographed with a product is one thing. Being invited behind closed doors is another. Being allowed to observe, to question, to participate in the sensory and intellectual core of a brand suggests trust. And trust, in Chanel's world, is not extended lightly. Fans immediately sense this distinction. Across social media platforms, ARMY reacted not with simple admiration, but with speculation. Why would a new ambassador be brought into such a protected space? Why introduce him personally to Olivier Polge, rather than simply placing him in a campaign? Why frame the visit not as a tour, but as an exploration? The promotional video released alongside the Yeleli Japan article deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. Lasting approximately 41 seconds, it did not overwhelm viewers with information. Instead, it offered fragments. Jungkook moving through the lab, close-up shots of iconic bottles like Chanel No. 5, fleeting images of raw materials, and text that spoke of capturing the essence of time without being trapped by it. The tone was reflective, almost secretive, as if inviting viewers to sense rather than understand. In marketing terms, this is unusual. Luxury campaigns often aim for clarity of message. This one leaned into ambiguity. And ambiguity, especially when paired with exclusivity, is one of Chanel's most powerful tools. Industry watchers have begun to ask questions that go beyond fandom. Could Jungkook be involved in shaping a future fragrance? Not necessarily as a perfumer in the technical sense, but as a conceptual contributor, a muse with direct access to the creative process. Chanel has a history of drawing deeply from the identities of its collaborators, translating personality into scent. There is precedent, though rarely so visible. Chanel has always valued internal creation over external collaboration, which is why this moment feels so charged. Even a symbolic involvement, discussions about mood, memory, emotion, would mark a significant shift in how the brand engages with global cultural figures. It is also impossible to ignore timing. The fragrance market is undergoing a transformation, driven by younger consumers who seek authenticity, narrative, and emotional resonance. Jungkook represents not only global reach, but emotional connection across cultures. His artistry is built on vulnerability, discipline, and an almost obsessive commitment to growth. These qualities align seamlessly with Chanel's self-image, yet bring something distinctly contemporary into the equation. The visit also reframed Jungkook's role as an artist. Standing in that laboratory, he was not simply a pop star entering the luxury world. He was an observer of craft, someone engaging with another form of artistry rooted in patience and precision. In many ways, the parallels between music production and perfume creation are striking. Layering, balance, tension, release, and the invisible impact on the audience. For Chanel, aligning with Jungkook is not about chasing trends or tapping into fleeting popularity. It is about positioning the brand within a global cultural conversation that transcends language. Scent, like music, bypasses rational analysis and speaks directly to memory and emotion. By bringing Jungkook into this space, Chanel appears to be signaling an understanding of how modern influence works, not loudly, but deeply. Still, Chanel has said nothing explicit about future projects. There has been no announcement of a Jungkook designed fragrance, no confirmation of deeper involvement. And that silence may be the most telling element of all. Chanel has always preferred to let speculation build, to allow meaning to form organically rather than be dictated. As the images from Paris continue to circulate, one question lingers in the air like an unfinished note. Was the world simply watching a symbolic initiation, or the first chapter of a fragrance story that has not yet been named? For now, all that is certain is this: Jungkook was allowed into a place few ever see. He was welcomed not as a spectacle, but as a presence. And in the universe of Chanel, where nothing is accidental and everything is intentional, that alone speaks volumes. The heart of Chanel does not open without reason. And when it does, history has a way of following. And yet, the deeper one looks at this moment, the clearer it becomes that the real story may not lie in what was shown, but in what was deliberately left unsaid, because in the world of Chanel, silence is never empty. Silence is strategy. Why, for instance, did neither Chanel nor Jungkook's team rush to clarify the nature of the visit? Why was there no firm statement insisting this was purely symbolic? No effort to shut down speculation before it grew legs. In an era where brands move quickly to control narratives, this restraint feels intentional, almost provocative. It invites curiosity. It invites theory. It invites the world to lean in closer. Luxury insiders know this pattern well. When Chanel wants to make noise, it does so with absolute authority. When it chooses not to, that too is a message. And this message seems to say, watch carefully, but do not expect everything to be explained. What makes this moment even more fascinating is Chanel's historical relationship with celebrity ambassadors. The brand has always been selective, even conservative, preferring figures who embody a certain inner discipline rather than fleeting hype. Chanel does not borrow relevance. It absorbs it slowly, reshaping it into something that feels eternal. Jungkook fits this philosophy in a way that feels almost unsettlingly precise. He is not an artist who arrived fully formed. His public narrative has been one of relentless self-examination, growth, and reinvention. From his early debut to his evolution as a solo performer, Jungkook has consistently spoken about process rather than outcome. That mindset mirrors the way Chanel approaches perfume, not as a product to be rushed, but as an identity to be distilled over time. Olivier Paul's comparison between Jungkook and Chanel's fragrances was therefore not flattery. It was alignment. When Paul spoke about abstraction, complexity, and the refusal to be defined by a single note, he was articulating Chanel's creative doctrine. To apply that doctrine to Jungkook suggests that Chanel sees him not as an external accessory, but as someone who intuitively understands its language. And then there is the question no one at Chanel has answered, yet everyone is asking: access. The laboratory Jungkook visited is not a place designed for spectacle. There are no dramatic backdrops, no theatrical lighting, no obvious luxury cues. It is functional, controlled, almost monastic. To invite someone into that environment is to trust them with vulnerability. It is to say, this is where our myths are made, before they are polished for the world. If this were merely a branding exercise, a set or a recreated space would have sufficed. Chanel has the resources to build illusions more convincing than reality. Instead, Jungkook was brought into the real thing. This is why speculation about a future fragrance refuses to die. Not because fans want it, but because the logic of Chanel suggests it. Historically, when Chanel introduces a new chapter, it does so by first introducing a philosophy.
Facce come later.
Products come last. What the world witnessed in Paris felt like philosophy in motion. The involvement, if it exists, does not need to be technical to be meaningful. In modern perfumery, especially at the level Chanel operates, emotional direction matters as much as chemical composition. Mood boards, memory references, discussions about identity, masculinity, vulnerability, and time. These are all elements that shape a fragrance long before a formula is finalized. And who better to embody those conversations than an artist whose career has been defined by emotional precision? Jungkook's global appeal is not built on spectacle alone. It is built on relatability without ordinariness, on vulnerability without fragility. His presence in the Chanel laboratory introduced a new kind of tension, the meeting of pop immediacy and luxury patience. That tension is fertile ground for creation. The reaction from ARMY worldwide reflected this instinctively. Social media was flooded not just with praise, but with analysis. Fans dissected body language, camera angles, Halb's wording, Jungkook's expressions. This was not casual consumption, it was collective interpretation. And Chanel, a brand that understands myth-making better than almost